I am going to look into, again, one of my best discoveries that I ever made on this channel, which is these mounds, these what they call burial mounds, and I've exposed them, most of them anyway, as being domes, the tops of buildings. Some of them are more simple than others. I will show you an example of a few, and then the rest of the surrounding building, if you can imagine something like the Alaska Mosque, is square, and how that will be built, and then you'd have the dome on the top, which all ended up being buried in the flood and the ash. That's what I'm going to get into. And many of the shapes I'm going to show you are very similar to the one here. This is extremely ancient. It has been excavated by archaeologists. It's something else I want to get into so we can determine the difference and the damage that they cause. Now if you look around the edge, you can see these tiny box square rooms that they would love to call rooms. It's structural. It's either foundational or structural. From the higher floors and the roof that's collapsed, the rest of it is buried. There was obviously something dome-like at its centre, similar to this modern day foundation of a building that's going to be built up on. This is what I'm going to do throughout the video, comparing ancient and modern examples to lead people in as to what they are looking at, because I'm going to show you that the foundations to something like what we just watched there is exactly the same as even what's atop Saxe-Human, you know, the megalithic wall step section. I've always felt that there was some type of dome atop that even before I made this discovery. What these, let's say, what they call burial mounds, tombs, really were. It's on the screen now. Anyway, looking back on this side from above, look at the imprints and the shape of the centre. It's almost like a clock. If you look at this ancient site here, this is in Peru, Main Street, for some reason it's round for one thing. It is also collapsed. You can see the same shape at its centre, and that's the name of it. You're looking at a side view. Anyway, one of the most important mounds I ever showed you has been completely excavated of the soil from the outside, and you're looking at completely dustified concrete. The mound that was left by the Twin Towers was only a fifth the size of this, so just imagine how tall this site was. Now the square sections that you're looking at are obviously various floor beamings, what the floors were resting on. Even in the left hand side of the picture, I don't know if those are floors that have fallen away from this huge structure, or if it's like a multi-level kind of step pyramid shape. Those are for floorings. It's the same as this thing here. It's not just the central structure that I'm examining here. If you look at the bottom, obviously this thing splays out far more, which is what the box sections around what they call Chaco Canyon there in America would rest a roof or a higher floor on. I would say there's more archaeology to do there, but we would never be allowed to discover our true history, would we? If you look at the top left of this image, we're going to start getting back into what goes into constructing a dome in the ancient world and in modern times. So I'm going to start throwing a barrage your way. Sometimes there might be 2 or 3 images from the same site showing a progression, how things went, and then just example after example confirming my point here. So like I said at the start, not everything that I'm showing here will have been constructed in a modern type way. Advanced construction. There's two here which I think are very different. You can see the imprints of this one. In my opinion, this will have been almost something like a teepee. You know, it will have had two beams, well, let's say three. You can see three there, three beams in a triangle shape, probably wrapped in some, you know, something simple, a tarp, some animal skin, and is the petrified wood shape that's on the floor. This one here, I thought this was an amazing discovery when I realised what this was. I think it's a tent, it's an imprint of a tent. It is a large site, and you can see where, as it's collapsed, the folds are on the right hand side. You can see where the post holes went into the floor, and as this thing has just been covered over with mud and formed mud rock, and you just left with an imprint of it. This is a site in Rome that they're uncovering. In my opinion, it's just what's left of the outskirts of a huge dome-like stadium that's collapsed in on itself. Whether or not this site here was constructed in the way I've just shown you is a possibility. It's not been touched by archaeologists, and that's why this is Newgrange, and I've shown before, I've not got the image here, I couldn't find it amongst my images, there's just too many. Anyway, you see the pillars, what they would say is something to do with star tracking, and you know the story. Well, they were completely buried by the overall structure. It was just a huge mess of a mound. And what they are the concrete pillars that went into holding whatever this roof up in the exact same way as this is here. You see the pillars on the outside. I don't think they were wood, it was something concrete. Why it's all rocks at the centre is something we can debate on. There's no doubt what we're looking at. This one here, when I zoom in, you will see that the beams have completely gone, so I would guess that these beams were wood, they were wooden, and they have since rotted away, and then the structure totally collapsed, in my opinion, because this one here, when you go find this image, it's labelled as Stonehenge domes, so I don't know what they mean by that. Obviously it was some type of concrete roof or something that's petrified and collapsed in this shape, so I'm surprised that they even labelled it that. And why would you end up with shapes all about the same size if you were pouring concrete? It would be because you would be pouring it into a rebar frame structure so it stays up, because you can't just have a concrete roof without any rebar in it, because it will crack and fall down. And that's what I'm going to start showing you here. This is Gobekli Tepe, and you get the same size little pieces of concrete, all of the same size, spread all over the place. Archaeologists have since built walls as they've been excavating it, but these things here were held up by a roof like this that you then lay your floorboards onto. Right, and how do we know that? Because I'm showing you it, it's in the background here. You can see the huge square floor beams. Right in the bottom right corner is an image from Gobekli Tepe. You can see the holes in the top of the pillars where the rebar connected into a concrete floor. In my opinion, this site here in Israel is a dome. I don't know how much is buried. It looks like it had a retractable roof. The reason why I put that on first is because it seems to be the exact same thing as what's at Stonehenge. Yes, in my opinion, what's left at Stonehenge is more than likely the remains of a dome. It is at the top of a hill, and this is a top view of it. So I will use this point to say this, and then I'll finish it off with music. This is going to be the last video from Wise Up, and probably, well, most likely, definitely on both channels. Don't want to get too much into why, but I can tell you that I won't even have access to internet. Right, it is literally the game over. So if anybody does want to donate, especially the 200 people that subscribed in the last week, if you've been enjoying my content and you've taken something from it, then the PayPal link will be in a link comment, and to everybody that has helped along the way, I thank you very much. And maybe we'll meet again in the future, but I can tell you that it will not be for some time.